Welcome. I am Mary Lee Walker, the nonprofit gladiator, and I am very excited to have a very special guest, Phildra Swagger. Oh man, you are going to love Phildra. She is a firecracker leader in the nonprofit sector, but I will let her introduce herself. Welcome, Phildra.
Hi, you gladiator. It's great to be here with your gladiator audience. I always enjoy connecting, so thank you for the invitation today. So yes, I'm Dr. Phildra Swagger. I am CEO of Combined Expertise, which is a coaching and consulting firm. But my background and experience is in education in the nonprofit space. I am a retired educator of 30 years. I retired just this 2019. And so I have transitioned into coaching to help others, nonprofit leaders, really expand their service footprint. So my background as an educator is somewhat of a non-traditional path, I would say. Of course, I was a teacher and a building administrator. And then as an educator, I began to work in the charter school space. And I founded a charter school with some famous folks and served a lot of kids for several years. And as my children began to grow, I decided that I would move into the coaching space and to help others open charter schools. Did that for a few years, and then I joined a national nonprofit and served as vice president there. And in that space, we served 45 different local nonprofit agencies, schools that service at-risk youth and communities in need. And so those programs were located across 10 states. And so I became even more familiar with the struggles of local nonprofits in building their network and defining their mission and recruiting the right supporters and getting state and federal funding to really be able to carry out their mission. And so I did that for about 7 years. And then I retired, and now I do it full time from a place of really helping people, nonprofit leaders, explore and understand the CEO mindset and the entrepreneurial spirit that goes along with leading a nonprofit. So although most of the nonprofits that I've worked with, the leaders work from a place of service in their heart. So I help them really structure their systems and their CEO mindset to make sure that the nonprofit has the resources, to reach out to a gladiator like you, Mary, for resource development and so forth, and get all those pieces really working together so that they can fulfill the mission and serve the clientele that they are interested in serving.
Well, thank you, Phildra, and we appreciate you your service as a teacher, as an educator. That is such an important role in our community. My daughter is a teacher at a local high school, and I feel for you, and just I appreciate what you've done for impacting the youth. So tell me, how did you come to recognize your purpose?
So it's funny, you never know, or I'll say I never know what that purpose question really is, because it's like, this is what I do. This is what I love doing, And I remember, being a little girl teaching my siblings on the back stoop, we're going to read and we're going to do this. And so I've always been a teacher at heart. I consider myself now a teacher with a few extra degrees and a lot of years behind me. But I knew from a child that I always was a teacher. It's my spirit. But as I grew and I worked with different populations and different communities, I saw the need to really understand the business aspect of providing quality services to underserved groups, right? Mm-hmm. And so by underserved groups, most of my work has been with at-risk children, either those who were economically in disenfranchised communities, or single parent homes, or learning disabilities, or first generation college students. But knowing that these people, these communities needed extra support, I realized that there was more to just doing the work. There had to be some systems in place in a way that I could be more useful to them, so that I could be, as the word says, a blessing. I'm blessed, so I wanted to be a blessing to others,
And
right?
I know that you are a blessing to others. So
With
tell me, Phildra, what is your ideal client and how do you
So
support them?
really, yeah, my ideal client is leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs who are working in either startup businesses or nonprofit space, who really need to have structure. What I found a lot of times, Mary, is that people have a really good idea and they don't know how to translate it to service or translate it to business. And so I work with nonprofits on really thinking about who their audience is and how their audience needs to be served, where they can identify resources and connecting the dots. And by resources, I mean the network, the resource, the financial resources, the media resources. So it's really, my ideal client, I would say, is the nonprofit leader who has done great work, but can take it to the next level by putting systems in place and understanding that as a nonprofit, you're still a CEO of a business. It is about having an entrepreneurial spirit that says this business can flourish as a business, as a nonprofit business, as a outreach agency, as a community service. And so all of those things coming into place in the person who has the mindset of the leader and the CEO is the ideal client.
I like what you said, because I have a saying that I all the time, that 501c is a tax status. It is not a business model. Well, I tell you, you have such just a wealth of knowledge and experience, and let's face it, we are all going through hard times right now. What advice do you have for nonprofit organizations uh, during these, let's say, challenging times?
To say the least. Yeah, these challenging times. The pandemic has really put us all in a different place. And so the first thing I would say to nonprofit leaders right now is to really manage your mindset. You can think of the pandemic as the worst thing that has ever happened, or an opportunity for a reset. And an opportunity for a reset is really to take a SWOT analysis of what it is that you do. How do you provide those services? What are your strengths? What opportunities can you create on the other side of this that will make you look different, because you have realized that your audience is different? And when you do that, you'll see that there's a lot of strength and resources around you to build from. I would also advise nonprofit leaders to really clarify the problem. And by clarify the problem, I mean that your audience may have had a particular set of circumstances going into the pandemic that have shifted now. As I said, as an educator, I have trained principals, leaders to run brick and mortar buildings for the last 20 years of my career. Well, 50% of the population are no longer comfortable going to a brick and mortar environment, right? So now my audience, my client, which has always been the student, how do we serve them in a virtual format? How do we help kids get the academic learning that they need in this new digital age, digital requirement? We knew we were in a digital age, but now this is the learning format. And what a lot of parents have for concerns around that is, what about my child's socialization? So helping people understand Zoom or other platforms where they can still socialize, or helping families identify 2 or 3 other families where they can do a education activity together so that the kids can socialize, is a way that my client has changed, right? And so I would advise the leaders to clarify their problems. And that really means focusing on the customer. And your client is your customer at the end of the day. Are you meeting their needs? And as a result of working with you or working with your agency, how will their life change? How will their circumstance change? How will they get through the pandemic? And when we think about that, we'll think about that little pivot that we can make to make sure that our agencies are strong. And then, it's the topic that's on the top of everybody's mind. We really do have to reduce cost. And reduce costs in your operation. There are a lot of small business association loans that are available, a little more attainable than some of the funding that was available through the banks. But the step that you can take for yourself is reduce costs. And if that means that really we are closing the office and working in a virtual format, the operational cost has been reduced, because as service providers, we want to take care of our people first, So if the building has to change or the delivery changes a little bit, let's do that. Think about, what are some of the reoccurring expenses that you have that don't necessarily directly impact your client. Is there a way to cut back on some of those expenses? And then when you pull all of that together, the best advice is to really manage expectations, right? So now that you have a clear mindset, you've clarified your problem, looked at the SWOT, the strengths, the opportunities, you looked at the cost, the budget, the operation expenses, and now you can clarify your expectations by setting new goals and putting new team members in the right seat to get all that you need done.
Man, those are wise words of wisdom from you, Phildra. I really appreciate that. And just tell me, okay, quickly, what is one thing a nonprofit organization can do right now in this pivot?
I think one thing a nonprofit can do right now in this pivot is to pivot. Know that you do not have to do it the way that you used to do it. Mm-hmm. You can reinvent yourself. You can reinvent your service model because, it's a new challenge. It's a new opportunity. And if you turn your challenge into an opportunity, you will sustain. You will be able to see the other side of this pandemic, because as a whole, as a country, as a community, and I think that's one thing to remember, we are a community, that we all are going through a shift. And if you shift with the shift, don't resist it, go with it, and find the new you'll be able to provide the services that you intend to.
I like that. Shift with the shift. That is so true. We all need to reinvent each other, because I believe that this is a new normal and a new direction. I prefer the word direction that we are all going through. So Phildra, tell my audience, share with me, is how would be the best way to get in touch with you for more information?
Oh, I would love to have your audience get in touch with me. You can find me on my website and all the resources there, which is combinedexpertise.com, combinedexpertise.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as Dr. Phildra Swagger. And those are the 2 places that will link you to everything else. So I won't give you a rundown on social media. So find me on my website, combinedexpertise.com, or on LinkedIn, Dr. Phildra Swagger, and you'll find everything you need to know about the resources that I have to support your nonprofit success.
Fabulous, Phildra. That was wonderful, very good advice from Phildra Swagger, PhD, and all around awesome person. And I'll thank you so much for this opportunity to have you on my Nonprofit Gladiator social media feed, my podcast here, and stay in touch. I will have your information on the link here for Phildra Swagger. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
You as well. Thank you.